Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Now, in today's video, I want to talk about foreigner privilege in China. Does it exist, and to what extent does it occur if it does exist? I'm living in China, and I've been living here for 2.5 years now. I've seen a lot of good and bad things since I've been here, mainly good things, but I do want to cover some of the bad things that maybe can be called what you would call discrimination. Most of it has been positive, I would say, definitely. Let's start with the positives first. So this video really covers the good side as well as the bad side. But really, to what extent does the privilege exist over here? We can often use this term foreigner privilege to refer to foreigners in Asia generally, but also more specifically in China. And I would say that it does exist, yeah, because it's this whole idea of outsiders coming in and offering expertise, and also just this common misconception as well that and stereotypes that foreigners have a sort of superior way of doing things, or maybe that they have traditionally been the world leaders, or just this idea that foreigners have traditionally done things, just tradition. So does privilege over here exist now in 2022? If you were to come over here as a foreigner, would you feel any different from, say, the West? Well, absolutely, absolutely. I've often heard other foreigners say that they come over here and they feel like rock stars. You know, they feel like everything has just fallen into place. Everything's so great because people come up to them, want to take photos. And this does happen a lot. You will find people wanting to come up to you, take photos. You could be in a tourist hotspot. You might not even be in a tourist hotspot. You might see people trying to film you without you knowing. So they might just whack out the phone and start, doing this and trying to be discreet, but not being discreet because it's obvious what they're doing. So all of these kinds of things that as a foreigner, you're not kind of used to in your home country. And it really is the case that over here, you can easily feel like a kind of celebrity, a kind of famous person with all the attention and whatnot. Now, how does this apply to employment over here? Employment being, teaching, in terms of modeling, in terms of all of these jobs that you can get over here really quite easily as a foreigner. You don't really have to tick too many boxes in order to get the role. And I will start with my my own thing first, which is teaching. So this is teaching in a training center. Training centers are a kind of complicated, because I've heard of other training centers, not mine, but other training centers that give foreigners a lot of responsibility when it comes to mentoring the kids, when it comes to teaching the language of English. And they have a really kind of central role in everything. And then, of course, you have the Chinese teachers, which are the helpers, the enablers, the people that kind of ease the interaction between parents and teachers, students and teachers and whatnot. So they'll form they will perform an assistance role in the classroom of the foreign teacher. The foreign teacher will teach what they know, and then it will be kind of followed up by a parent-teacher student consultation, these kinds of things. Now, in my school, I would say definitely it's the case that it's a traditional white monkey role. And what I mean by that, what I'm saying is that it's more to do with the appearance, the face of the company. Now, over in China, face is extremely important, and you will quickly realize this if you do come here. It's this idea that, it could be different things. I mean, face in terms of the promotion of the company. and how the company looks in the eyes of others. It's this idea of, oh, if your kid goes to this school, it's better than the school my kid is going to, because there are foreigners at that school. There are native English speakers. Now, of course, what puts an end to this idea of there being, a true value of native English speakers is the fact that they hire non-native English speakers to teach at these schools. And so essentially, as long as you look the part, to be as unracist as I possibly can, and I don't mean this badly or by any means, but if you are white and you are from a white country, then generally you are favoured and you are given the role. I've heard many stories of people of colour being turned down for the role simply because they don't have the image, and it tends to be those companies, including mine, that put the Chinese teacher in the central teaching role. It's the Chinese teacher that does all of the English teaching, and really your role is to basically just provide classes that give the kids a bit of fun, give them a bit of an outlet for the English that they have learned previously with the Chinese teacher. So essentially it's like a review, but it's in a more fun way. And so you could, I suppose, by definition, call that a white monkey job, in the sense that you are being paid for the way you look. You're being paid to act a bit like a clown, and you're being paid for your face. You're not being paid for the kind of the valuable teaching that you offer, because of course, if you were, that's not to say that non-native speakers are less capable than native speakers, but I'm saying that if native speakers were truly valued in that role, then they would not be considered as an option. So that's teaching. Now we move on to things like modelling, we move on to things like that. And I believe that the modelling jobs are very much more in line with what you would call white monkey, jobs. The fact that you are used for your appearance, to promote a product or a service, a company. And absolutely, these are white monkey jobs. And it's not necessarily for the worse as well. I mean, the pay can reflect this, and I would say that this is almost a privilege, because the pay that you get is almost unequal to the amount of work put in by foreigners. In many cases, there's kind of a disconnect, an unbalance between the pay that you get and the work that you put in. And this is surely then the result of the way that you look. Now, of course, I mean, if you're going to come all this way to another country, you have to be paid, in order to attract foreigners, you need to pay them what would be considered reasonable, a salary in their own countries. So this is how it's marketed, and this is why the pay is high, rather high. Now we move from the positives, and I can go on about many positives. Positives in just everything you do, people wanting to come up to you and say hello, people wanting to practice their English, sometimes people want to stare because they've never seen a foreigner before. And I remember when I first got here, I went to Beijing, and there were many people that were smiling and waving, and really people from all over China come to these cities, and if they see a foreigner, they can be quite taken aback by it. In China, you can be anywhere, and you can still have somebody come up to you and say, can I get a picture? Can I, practice some English with you? And generally, these people are perhaps not local to the area. They are maybe from another place, and they've never seen a foreigner. And you get a lot of people from, the more rural China wanting to come over and interact with foreigners. But really, they could be from anywhere, and you still get attention. Now, on the other side of this, there are the negatives. Starting really from my own experiences, of course. One experience I have of real discrimination was when the virus first started, and China was just going into or coming out of lockdown. So everything was starting to reopen again. This was maybe 2020. So clubs were starting to reopen and everything was just starting to go back to normal again. And I remember me and a friend, we tried to get into one of these clubs, and we saw many people, many Chinese people going into the club. No problem, no problem. When we showed up, we tried to get into the club, but there was a leaflet, there was like a message, a kind of a piece of paper on the window or on the wall. And it just said there clearly, plain to see, no foreigners allowed because of the situation going on. So we looked at this and we tried to confirm whether this was the case, and they said, look, you are foreigners, you can't come into the club. So we were told to go, and we were not allowed in. So that was really a disappointment for us. It was also our first real taste of discrimination, even against, white foreigners, which is, I would say, a lot less common than discrimination against foreigners of colour. So that was some real discrimination there. And it happened a second time, again in a nightclub. We went through the security check of the club, and in fact the club is only just down there. I can see it over there. By the way, this is my new background. This is from my apartment building, and you can see just, the buildings going on here. I want to talk a little more about building construction in China and how fast things change here. And yeah, you can just see the nice background here. So we went to this club, we cleared security, we went in, went up the elevator, and we got to the bar, as far as the kind of a bar area, just before you enter the actual nightclub. And this security guard kind of waved us down and said, follow me. Again, our Chinese is not great, unfortunately, but we got the gist of what he was saying, which was, come with me. I want to, tell you something. I want to discuss something. So he essentially escorted us back down the elevator and out of the building. And there, him and some other colleagues, just showed us the translation, and they said, sorry, you can't be here at this time. So that was a real disappointment. Now, of course, since then, we have perhaps stupidly been back to the same clubs, both of the clubs, and everything has been fine. And of course, foreigners can go there and say, please. But that was really before, and that was our taste of, discrimination. And that's not what you would say is a privileged position. And I also want to mention briefly just little things that have been said maybe in person, so I remember going to a supermarket, and one of the women who was in charge of checking temperature and looking at the health code, just said a really silly thing, just a really stupid thing that, normal people don't really say. I don't know if this woman had a problem or something. I would say it was the exception and not the norm in this case. But she just, you can see in the photo, she stood up the minute she saw me and backed off and just walked back. And kept a distance of about 5 meters between, me and my girlfriend and her. And, really just saying really quite nasty stuff like, foreigners and, you could have the disease and things like this. Really quite obvious, and making that obvious with her body language and just saying it as well in Chinese. And so, of course, that was not nice. On another occasion, I tried to get access, or I tried to go into a bar, and I was allowed in, but one of the young lads, young men, just said, "Oh, double check his health code, just make sure that he's okay," kind of thing. And, you know, this really ticked my girlfriend off. She was really annoyed about this. I didn't understand at the time, but this was kind of, you know, this was kind of discrimination against a foreigner and nobody else at the time. And then just general stuff, I would say as well, just when walking down the street and people, you know, seeing you as a foreigner and kind of putting the mask up to the nose and really holding the mask on the nose like this, which is, again, it's a ridiculous thing to do because, of course, they don't have trust in their own system if they believe that foreigners with the disease have been allowed to just walk on the street in public. You know, it's just non-logical, illogical. So these are just a few of the pet hates that I have, just a few of the little things that can add up. But I would definitely say that coming to this country is something that you should think carefully about. You obviously are going to find positives and negatives with everything that you do and everywhere that you go. And, you know, sometimes to get the positives, you have to put up with some negatives there as well. So this was just a video about privilege in China, whether it exists. And thank you for watching the video. Please make sure to like and comment if you want. And don't forget to subscribe. These videos are really just starting to get going. And, you know, I've decided that I want to make the videos. And if you could help me support the channel, then I'm, you know, so grateful for that. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.